Call to order. Can I have an action motion on the minutes?
Move to approve.
I'll second. John Tapp excused. And all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right. Our first agenda item is to review any new available testing data. That's sort of a standing item at this time of year. So I will let you have the floor on that one.
So I can let you know that the 2022 comprehensive statewide assessment data has been shared out publicly via the NHED website. The set data contains the percentage breakdowns for each proficiency level for the summative assessments at the district and school levels. We are currently waiting on where the state fits into that. So users can sort like assessment results by content area, grade level, etc. It even breaks it down by students with an IEP or etc. So but it's a very, very large segregated data document. It has almost 8,000 lines to it. And it's not in alphabetical order. So part of Sanborn might be in one section that talks about just elementary schools, and then you have to scroll down to get some of the other sections for the middle school, etc. So I do have some preliminary information, but I would probably request that we go into non-public to talk about some of that because it's not finalized.
I would say that we need to wait until the meeting in December when we have all the data, because there are a lot of questions about the data. Some of it doesn't add up, so some of it comes out to 101%. Some of it, we don't have any backup data, and we also don't know the impact of students who didn't participate, because currently Christine's has the understanding that if you have a student that didn't participate, their score counts as a 0, which is completely skewing the numbers. So I'm recommending to the committee that we wait until we have all that information figured out and clear before we discuss. The other thing is we need to discuss, what does it mean? I need the backup data for what. So if students did well on the assessment, what did they score well on? And then if they didn't do well, what do they need to work on? Because that should be considered in not only our curriculum planning, but in our intervention programs. So we need a lot more information. That the data is not, we're not comfortable with whether or not it's accurate at this point. Or that there's
where do they download it? That's the site.
I will share that with you.
Okay.
I will share that with both of you.
Yeah.
So you can see
Yeah.
it.
And I want to be clear, there are some scores that we're concerned about. They're low. And I'm trying to figure out whether or not those zeros are affecting the scores for people that have the legal right to not take the exam. So I want to be transparent about that I have questions about whether or not that's true or how that works. So we met today and talked about it, and we just felt like we're not really ready to unpack it yet.
Is the state indicating that they are still in the process of assessing and aggregating the data?
Correct. And they did say that there may be some discrepancies in the preliminary data, and then it will be finalized when it's uploaded to what's known as the I-platform.
So that hasn't happened yet?
No, I looked this afternoon. I keep looking about twice a day. And when we had our administrative meeting this afternoon, I popped up the I-platform, which I'm happy to do for you here as well. And it still shows last year's information. The I-platform is a wonderful site. You actually put in the school district, all grades, and the third or fourth tab over for assessments, or it says achievement, I believe. And it'll actually show you everything in colorful charts. It'll tell you our percentage rate of how many kids actually took each test. And this is just for the NHSAS. So it'll show you what our scores were for the past 3 or 4 years, which is very, very nice. And it'll chart our progress.
Okay, but they're not even really.
They have not updated that information.
Okay. All right, well then, seems like it's definitely preliminary.
Yes.
The state's not really.
I just sent you that information
Thank you.
to both of you.
Thanks. Okay. All right. Well, then I put this on a future agenda.
Thank you.
Are you good, Jane?
Yeah.
All right, okay, so K through 2 grading system work.
So in speaking with Troy and then speaking with, the district level administrators, what we're looking at for K2 is to suggest a work group. This is to suggest having a group of people meet with an administrator, at least 1 or 2 administrators, teacher representation and board representation in order to put together what we did 6-12 with the student handbooks or the parent handbooks around grading. And we recognize that K2's report card is going to look a little different than when we have at Memorial, what we have at the middle, or what we have at the high school. So it's a team to kind of look at what do we want that to look like? What language do we want to use? What level of, do we want to say the word proficient? Or what are we doing for that K2 level? And then also looking at what other districts are doing. Even beyond New Hampshire, when we look at a primary building, what are they doing in order to report out to families and to communicate to families the child's progress?
So my thinking on this, Christine and I met with the district level folks this afternoon, and we were just talking about it. So there's a couple of ways we can do this. Let's just talk about them.
Just for clarification, when you say district level administrators for K2.
Oh, district level administrators are myself, Jody Governor,
Okay.
Diana. Matt wasn't there today, but we meet twice a week to get prepared for other meetings, and we meet with the administrators of the district every Tuesday at 9. So we have that's the principals and the district level folks all together. So we have different levels of meetings each week. So we started out at the district level just to have a preliminary conversation, like what are the modalities to move forward with what to do with K2. A couple things we picked around. One was have a group of people at K2 that get together, review report cards, make a proposal, bring it to the staff, get a proposal, and then send it to the principals, send it to us, and then to you. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to just set up a committee where a representative from EISA is there, a district level person like Christine is there, the teachers are there, and the principals at that level, or one administrator is there, and everyone works it through, and then you kind of bring it forward to the board and bring it to EISA and just kind of move forward together as a group. I was gonna ask you all to do that because I think it's a great opportunity to build school board staff relationships, right? So we're talking about one of our goals of improving the culture of the district. Why not have folks work collaboratively with teachers on developing a K2 report card? Just seemed like a good thing to do, but if y'all would prefer that we come up with an idea and then bring it to you for feedback, we're happy to do that. And of course, Christine and I are looking at each other saying, hey, Jamie can help out with that, but we're not nudging or anything, but we just thought it would be good as a representative of EISA if he could come to some meetings and meet our K2 teachers and talk to them about what's going on. We wanted to invite everyone to be, I'm really trying to focus on collaborating, right? Creating a culture of trust and a culture of communication and collaboration. So this just seemed like a good opportunity to do that with our K2 folks. What do you guys want?
I don't mind doing that. I mean, we need to Tammy's input, Don's input, what does ISO want to do?
And of course, Tammy, if you want to be on the committee, we'd love to have you, but I knew that Jamie's in a retired state and might have a little flexibility to help out and kind of meet some folks, Just a thought, which way would you guys like to go?
I just said, I don't mind doing it that way. I don't mind doing it the other way either.
We don't even, just wanted to kind of pose some different options of how you'd like to do it.
But either way, I mean, we just gotta get the ball moving.
Yes.
Whatever the appropriate.
It's time to get cooking.
Yeah.
So the options are, can you go through those options again? There were 2.
Sure, the first option would be to have the school create a committee of teachers that work with a school level administrator, develop a potential report card based on reviewing other districts, and then present that to the administration, both building and central office level, and then the group would bring it to the EISA committee and then to the board, right? So it's totally teacher driven. The other way to do it is to have a representative from the board and EISA and a representative from the central office committee, administration, and then a representative from the school level administration and teachers all work collaboratively to develop a report card and then present that to ISA and the board. The schools do it both ways, and we're a small district, so that's part of why the second option feels a little bit easier for us, is because we're so small. When you're a large district, my wife worked in a district where they had 18 school board members in 5 towns. So it's a very different model for how to handle these types of things. So I think that I would recommend that we go with the second option, but we're open to either option.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Hey, oh my goodness, I'll take it. Thank you. Dinner.
You would fall apart without those.
Oh my God, yes.
She's just wonderful.
Oh, no,
Totally.
I was
She's the
leaving and
best.
I said, wait a minute, there's 3 pieces of pizza
She
in there.
packs in
and
water
Yeah.
and his little,
Thank
like,
you, Phyllis.
Oh, you're welcome.
little hot pepper flakes.
His bib, you gotta give him the bib.
Yeah, like the one that it has lobsters on it.
Yes.
Yeah, oh, you got lunch in there too, you got dinner too, yeah, it's like, just go from 2 o'clock until 10 sometimes, or 11.
So who will be on this second committee? I mean, obviously, we would decide from our committee.
Yeah, I typically, what I would do is ask the leadership team at the building leadership team to participate.
So someone from Bakey.
Yeah, like grade, K1, 2, maybe pre-K, but pre-K wouldn't be a part of the grading, it'd
No,
be
it
K1
would
and 2, right?
Correct.
I always like to think of pre-K, because I
Right.
love them. But K1 and 2, and then maybe a guidance counselor or someone from the specialist realm, art, music, PE. So it's 4 or 5 people from the building, the teaching staff,
And I would say a special education.
a special education teacher, so that would usually be what would comprise the group. And if it's not the BLT, then the rep from the BLT would go back to the team and they would nominate someone if the BLT person didn't do it, but normally they do.
What is
Building leadership team.
Okay, I didn't know either.
So
Tam was thinking about
I only
supper.
learned what that.
Yeah,
was.
with mayo, with mayo.
Mayo.
I was too timid. With cheese on it.
Okay. The first option sounds similar, except without anyone from our committee.
Yeah, I think there's no difference.
Right.
That's really the difference,
Well,
right?
the difference is that the first model, the building leadership team and the principal work on a model and then present it to the district level administration. And then it comes to the ISA committee. The second model has like Christine or someone from the building, from the central office, someone from ISA, and someone from the building administration, along with the teachers. That's really the difference. And the part that's good about that, and the reason why I kind of lean that way, is you hear the teachers' direct perspectives, which is really good for the board, and they also build relationships, but it's more time for the board. And you guys are volunteers, I mean, you don't, I get it. So I just wanted you to feel welcome to participate, and we needed direction before we get going.
And it's also gonna be the grading system and what it can actually do.
Yeah, and that's another conversation.
That's a
We're
fun
definitely
public
not
conversation.
doing the warm fuzzies for Alma right now, but that's a separate, we'll
Really?
talk about that later. Yeah.
I think the second option sounds valuable.
I do too.
Yeah,
I think it'd be preferable.
me too. So, I don't know if Dawn would want to be part of this or not, so, but I'm fine if you want to do this. I don't have as much time or that we could.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind doing it when Dawn gets in tonight. We can just see
Yeah,
if she.
You can rock, paper, scissors it if she
Yeah,
wants
she
to.
can- If she agrees with that or not, and then, but yeah, I mean, if you're okay with me doing it, I don't mind doing it. So.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm fine with anyone who wants to help.
How long, what sort of time frame and schedule do you? How often do you envision this meeting?
I would recommend that we have a piece of paper. So Christine has to focus on NEASC until the end of November, right? Yeah, January. Yeah, NEASC is a big thing right now. And so between the budget and NEASC, I don't see a whole lot happening until the first of the year. So the committee would probably meet regularly for January, February, and March, and then bring a recommendation in April to ISA and the board. Because then we have to create it and make sure it works with Alma, and then it would have to go forward from Alma. And we always have to have enough lead time to train any new staff for September. I mean, luckily, K2 is a little bit, there's so many ongoing assessments and things in K2, it's not as, they really do more of they fill out the report card when it's time to send the report card home. It's a little different than filling out grades every week at the high school and middle school level. You know, it's a different process, but still, the one thing staff have asked us is please don't drop any bombs on us in August, because we're already nervous about school starting. And my response is no problem, we'll tell you in June or July. So we want to have it pretty well fleshed out by April, early May, so that they know what's coming. And then if we have to work out the details over the summer.
And also to keep in mind, we're balancing that and also Memorial's move to a 0 to 100.
Yeah, which is also going on simultaneously.
Right,
We
so
did,
we're
Christine and I met with
jumping
that staff, just a quick update, and we gave them the heads up that we're looking for what they perceive to be the issues or concerns with that change. Like what do we need to solve because the change is coming? And they understand that. They understand that we're moving to a 100-point scale, A to F, and that will work on how the assessments and the rubrics and the things will work within that system. And so they understood that the inflexible part is the change. The flexible part is kind of what does it look like and how do we make it work? It's good. We did that a few weeks ago.
And they understand that it has to be in lockstep with what 612 has and kind of keeping with the flow of,
Right.
you know, what really needs to be done, what are the types around that. So they understand that there are things that have to be part of that.
Yeah, I mean, it should be, this is part of our experience at Sanborn School District, and it flows all the way through to graduation. Everybody is familiar with it all the way through, including the parents, the teachers, the administrators, the whole community.
Yeah.
And also we talked about bridging the learning. And we used the example of how the middle school bridged to the high school and what, you know, the expectation was and bringing it down, and then looking at what the middle school has and bringing that down a notch. So the kids are then ready by the end of 5th grade to then be ready for 6th grade. And what the academic and grading expectations are within that and the importance of that.
You know, ties into curriculum too.
It
Oh,
does.
yes.
Just like the state assessments time, what's up, right? How do we back that around?
It's instruction.
It's all instruction.
Okay. All right. So Jamie will be our delegate to that committee.
Unless Don rock, paper,
Don-
scissors.
Unless
Yeah.
Don really prefers to, and then he doesn't match that. All right. Status of the conversion to the 24 credit diploma.
Okay, so that committee has not met since they last reported out last month, but they said that they would have some information available in December,
Okay. December.
your next meeting. I don't believe you have a meeting in November
Well,
scheduled.
we have one on our schedule.
You
We
do?
have on the calendar.
Is it on the Thursday meeting?
Oh,
Is-
Thursday
okay,
meeting,
yeah.
We
okay.
have it on our calendar.
Let's try to do that
Okay.
one that night, because that's kind of a big process, and I'd like to talk about the master schedule as part of the budget,
Mhm.
you know, in the sense that the conversation that I was just having with you. The 24 credit diploma and the switch to 6 periods a day has created kind of some normal transition. It's a big transition, so it has created some hiccups, but they're just to be clear, overall, it's going great, right? Like it's moving forward. It's just not, it's not working as well sharing teachers between the middle and high school as it was, because there are less periods available for them to share. But it doesn't mean more staffing, it just means reallocating staffing, and we'll talk about that as part of the budget process. We don't need to add anything, we just need to change the way we use the people we have.
And Tammy, that is Thursday, the 17th of November, is that correct?
Yeah.
I will let them know that, thank you.
Okay.
I think the biggest thing that we need help with, Christine, just so that you'll share this with the principals and I can help, is we need an update on the diploma with distinction component.
diploma with distinction.
Yeah, where are we at with that? How are things going with the criteria? I think that's what the agenda item is kind of more focused on, right, Tammy?
Yes.
The diploma with distinction piece needs to be clarified so that the students know where that is. And I know that they're working on it, but we'll talk to Jen and
Yes, that's more what that was aimed at.
I will add that to our agenda for the building principals.
That was what the committee was.
Correct.
Meeting about.
Yeah.
Okay. Curriculum review second?
Yes. So, here's one for you. Here's another copy. One, two, three, fine. So this is the SRSD curriculum review cycle as it stands now. This was created and updated, the 30th of June in 2021. And as you can see here, there's phases, there's program review, research, resource selection, implementation planning, monitoring, sustaining, etc. But due to things going on, I thought it was time to revisit this, as looking at years past, some of these have not been addressed. And looking at what our current challenges are in regards to data, and looking at what our data is showing us, I would like to see for this year and moving forward, if you give me permission, I would like to tweak these a little bit and present to you next month with some updated plans on this. I know this is, it's linked to the strategic plan, but before NEAS gets here, I want this to be a true reflection of what we've done, where we're going, and what we're planning on doing next. And this also reflects then what we're going to be piloting, what we're going to be purchasing in regards to different programs. You can see like the math K-12 is all set, but they didn't get to the ELA 912 in the 2021-22 school year. Nor did, the whole district discuss what they want to pilot and use for science. So looking at this year, I would like to really focus on K-5 literacy. What are we doing at the elementary schools around all the components of the literacy umbrella, including but not limited to phonics, phonemic awareness, comprehension, writing, all those pieces, especially at Bakey, when we need a stronger foundation in phonics and phonemic awareness, and developing some strategies, looking at different programs that the teachers could adopt and use more readily.
My only concern, I don't disagree with anything you said. The only concern is, I think you have to be broader than just phonics, because then you're really, I like the idea of focusing on phonics. But if we're just be doing ELA K through 5, we very narrowly taking that down, and we're not doing anything to address anything for the middle school or high school as part of the program as to what's going to happen first. So that gets delayed yet another year before something happens to help out those students. And seeing as we're falling on our backsides often at the middle school, in terms of, that's where we see a lot of the degradation of our assessments. We should probably try to find something to at least be addressing that at the same time. Now, I don't know, there's obviously overload and work, et cetera. I'd leave to you to take that in and give us some thought and tell us what you think is possible.
Okay.
But my concern would be, we're not really picking up anything in this building or the other, this
Right.
campus. We got something K through 5 is the other two campuses, but there's nothing for this campus. And it's gonna, in order to get all this done, it's a push, but it's if you wait and do everything one thing at a year, we'll be 10, 15 years out before we finish. The district is not in an academic situation where we can wait that long.
No, I don't want to wait either. I just didn't know financially, like what we can adopt. I didn't know if, like, looking at a math program, 612, that was a huge chunk of funding, and then K-5s, and then looking at the workbooks and everything every single year for something like that. So I didn't know if it was okay to do something K-12. I'm kind of looking to you to also give me permission. Are we looking for something? I would agree, we need to look at English, language arts, literacy, K-12. But are we okay at this time looking at that?
Well, I'm probably the cheapest SOP on the board, or at least arguably so. When you're talking curriculum, that's, you have to define what it is that you want people to learn. And then you have to put in the tools so they can learn it. You have to give them high expectations, and then you have to drive them to learn it. And you're gonna need, so if your literacy says, we are going to encourage and enforce everybody starting in 6th grade, they're gonna read 3 novels. We need to buy novels for everybody in the 3 grades.
Right.
Or I think what Christine is, right, Christine's thinking about, the actual curriculum materials, like the curriculum maps, the curriculum.
Well,
In some levels, she's talking about literal programs, like a phonics
Like we
program.
did with math.
Yeah.
Right,
practice
exactly.
programs,
We're talking
K-5,
quite a bit of money,
and we
so
looked
we're
at
trying to
that
be
program.
conscious of the budget. Because the buying a program is expensive. And so we just want you to know that we, and I mean truly we, the whole board, everybody, the administration, right down to the principals in the schools, we have done a great job of choosing a math program.
Hmm.
She's saying, you kind of need to do that with literacy,
100%.
right? And so do you want to do it in K-5 first, and then
Which is how
6-12?
we did it with math.
Right,
We
over a
started-
2-year period.
we started, yeah.
Or
So I just to
you want it all
clarify,
at once.
Not gonna wait 10 years,
No.
Yeah, that's my concern. We
but
can't.
with the budget and everything, I'm nervous about how much we can do in 1
So I
year.
think it's something you can think about. I would propose that at least in December, if you're okay with it, that I would have at least the literacy specialist and the literacy coordinator present some ideas to you of some possible pilots, especially at Bakey. Just because they're the start of everything, and without good foundational skills, at least get it started that way. But I'm fine doing K-12, I just don't know fiscally if that's
I mean,
something that
from
you
my
guys can swallow.
perspective, that's the reason we exist, is the academics.
Correct.
And everything else is larder on the horse. It's just extra stuff that gets done. So it need be that you need to do something for the academics to actually deliver on the promise that we're making to these kids, that getting an education here means something, and you can take that to the bank literally when you get out.
Mhm.
And then we need to redline other things that aren't as critical in the
Mhm.
budget and say, no, the money's going to this. This is what our reason for existence is,
Mhm.
in my mind.
That's helpful, thank you.
And I'm just cautious, Christine's not complaining in any way, but I wanna make sure that her capacity is reasonable.
Well, as I said,
She's
there's
spending
there's
her
a balance
weekends-
here you gotta deal with.
She's spending her weekends writing EIS documents right now, and I appreciate it, but I don't wanna burn Christine out, so I wanna be careful, so thank you for being aware of that. I'm lots of stuff that we are working on is, it will have an ending. I was going to say terminal, but it has an ending. So for example, there's a point where the NEAS piece is done. It's a couple years away. But there are times when it's more work than others.
Correct.
Right now, we're at a critical juncture.
You're at the front load part.
Yeah, and then there's a part where we do the work, which aligns with all this other work that we're doing. So there is, but it's not as simple as just like, oh, we're fixing the ELA curriculum, check that box for NEAS. It doesn't quite work like that.
When you
but-
get to if it's anything like the accreditations that happen in the work world, here's gonna be your big push. Then they're gonna be out chasing other money plays. And then you'll have a lull in activity. And then they'll remember that, well, we need to go back there so we can bill again. And then they'll come back, and then they'll bill again. Not that I'm overly cynical. Then they'll come back and they'll bill again. So you'll have another, at some point in the future, hard focus time. And then there'll be a lull, and then you'll wrap it up in your third time around with another
Pretty
hard
much.
focus time.
Should be 2 for us.
Pretty
right?
much.
It's
So
two
the
time cycles.
2 days in November is our collaborative conference visit. When they have tours of the buildings, they meet with teachers, et cetera. And then from that is generated a report based on all the work that the two committees did last year, Bob and Jen, myself, and the other committee members who are no longer here, but they take that information and then they generate a report for us, and basically of, this is what you're doing really well, and these are the areas you need to work on. So in December of 2024, that's our decennial visit. So all the checklist items that we needed to have completed, those need to be done with evidence, et cetera, and then they're gonna meet with the school board. They're going to meet with some parent groups, so there's going to be that final push for the set accreditation seal of approval. So no, you're not off. It'll just be depending on what happens when we get the report. We should have it by late December, if not early January, and then we can talk about that report in here as well, as there's gonna be sections that obviously pertain to the work that we're doing here. And then we'll talk about, you know, a plan moving forward on making sure those items are done before that decennial visit. And then one of them will be a finished curriculum, because right now they're in process. They've done some great work, but it's not gonna be finished by the time November comes. We have a lot of sections that, you know, there's great rough drafts. They haven't written stage 3 yet. We're getting that done throughout the school year. And then by the time they come, everything's gonna be perfect, published, and set. So we're kind of working on that. The same thing with this. They want a curriculum review cycle. So I want to make sure this is updated to reflect what the board, this organization, the community want to see done. And then it's going to be added to the evidence piece of the document. The same thing with the strategic plan. So if we want any tweaks with that, we want to make sure that that's done before.
I just actually asked
You
Phil
hand
to
it to
make
them.
copies of that, so I can.
Yeah, she printed it.
So I can start going through and say, okay, this is already done, we need to, is
Yes.
it marked down as it's done, and, yeah, what's the next thing that we should, so, yeah, she said she's gonna make you.
So I think one of the things that you definitely want to look at is that vision and mission statement, and look at if you want to keep that, or if you want to, you know, look and tweak that. I mean, it's not before November, but if you want to tweak what's in there, if that's the representation you want to have said or not, it's up to you
I know
guys.
Mr. Baker had some recommendations in the
Right.
He did,
vision statement, as I recall.
you know, and that'll probably be a box that we'll need to check.
Mhm.
So what will happen is they'll give us the report and then we'll do work. And I think that Christine will have a better sense of what her capacity and the team's capacity will be when we get the NEAS report in January. I think the part that we cannot wait on, regardless of whatever else happened, is dealing with the phonics component and the instruction aid. I think we have to work on that. It's a moral imperative
I would
because
agree with that.
the research is
literacy,
very,
so-
very clear that early literacy is so important to the next 12 years.
Well,
Right,
and you often have dual working parents that simply don't have the time to be reading at home and to spend some of this time. I agree, and we need to unlock that world of curiosity and awe with books and reading as early as we can.
and maintain it as long as we can, because what we see is that kids enjoy it a lot through like 4th grade, and then they drop off the amount that they read. And I saw it with my own boys. And we're a very, very book-rich family. We had books everywhere. We read every day. My kids are avid, they're very solid readers. But the interest wanes in the world of technology organically for kids. And we have to capitalize on those key years where they have natural interest. I'll never forget the night it's like 11:30, 11:45, and I walked by my son's bedroom and see this faint light on the bottom of the door. It's like 3rd grade. What's going on? I crack open the door. He found my hiking headlamp and was reading Harry Potter in bed. And he had the headlamp on. He's like, and now freshmen can't get him to read a thing. It's tricky, right? And my wife and I are constantly reading a book. Especially me with my dog. I've got something reading it's weird. The modeling is there. So Jamie, I worry about kids, even in highly literacy-rich families like mine, not having that enjoyment of reading. That's a big conversation.
problem in today's
My
society.
entire doctoral dissertation is on this topic. That's what I'm studying, is the teaching of reading in high school. And so I'll fill you in more later.
Blow up the iPad. the iPhone.
Yeah, that, see, the thing is that I'd like to do that, but it's not, the cell phone policy has made a huge difference. You wouldn't believe the feedback I'm getting. It's phenomenal. I'm shocked. I thought we were gonna have a line of people out the door ready to take me out and
Yeah,
fillet me, and they have been wonderful. Parents have been great. Kids are saying, yep, that's good, shut it off. So I went to the football game and the kids were talking, not on their phone. I'm not saying it's
Wow.
directly correlated, but someone pointed it out to me.
I would not doubt that it's correlated.
Yeah,
Once you get them off that and they realize, wow, there's three-dimensional things out there to talk to, not just these two-dimensional things.
so hard. Sorry, I didn't mean to take us on a tangent. It's a good one. Though. Come on, Headland Story was pretty good. Though.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah. I figured Harry Potter, that's what my son would have been reading.
I used to do that with The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings when I was a child.
Those are really boring books too. You're a really good reader.
Fantasy books,
Yeah,
he is such a good writer.
Yeah, except he tells you Bilbo's whole backstory of his whole family in the first 4 chapters. It takes forever to get through. Anyway.
Oh, you anti-Hobbit.
I love it.
He just wants to watch the movie.
All right,
I read all
so,
those.
on the review cycle here, are we still, we're sort of at a decision point on what our recommendation is going to be?
Could I do a draft for you for next meeting? And then when you can look
Absolutely,
at
I
it?
think you said you were probably going to do that for the NEAS, your NEAS board anyway, so, you may as well.
I would just, my recommendation to you, for your consideration would be, I would base it on what you believe is within your capacity and what you believe needs to be done. And let us worry about the money. We'll then have to either say, well, we are, or we're not gonna be able to do it, but
Okay.
if you say you can get it done, and this is what I need to get done, and here's my best estimate of it, then that's our job to figure out, yes or no, or you can't do it all at once, or you can, and where are we gonna find the funding for it? Because if you have the capacity to do it, don't let your belief constraints that you believe we might have prevent you from pushing for whatever you think you can get done academically.
And Jamie, I would say that it's 2-part. It might be 3-part, but I'll say 2 for now. One part is like getting curriculum alignment and materials, and another big one is professional development for teachers. We're talking about finally getting to, when I was hired here, we added $100,000 to the budget for PD that hasn't really been utilized during the pandemic because the PD people aren't available. We need to really work on our professional development now. It's time.
But I'm interpreting when you say working on professional development, that translates in instruction improvement.
Yeah, thank you. So
Exactly.
the definition of professional development for me is teachers learning skills to teach children better.
Okay.
That's exactly.
Because I mean, you know, sometimes professional development as well, you can get a broader view of the finances of the.
No,
That's
instructional.
instructional development is
So
where
I
it needs
can
to be
tell you-
focused on.
Yeah,
For
that'd be a great
example,
thing to call it, instructional development instead of professional development.
the October 7th PD day, for example. One of the things that K-5 teachers do is they do a Fountas and Pinnell running records for reading. It's part of the data we collect at our school level to see where students are at in their independent reading level, and then make decisions on if they need intervention, what level, et cetera, based on their skills. So one of the things that they did, the literacy specialists in each building, so at Bakey and at Memorial, they did an F&P training. So all the teachers that needed a refresher from years past got one, and all of our new staff got the training they needed as well. And then on top of that, the Bakey reading specialist also provided teachers with a sampling, what I call the movie trailer version of Heggerty, which is one of the programs we're looking at for our primary buildings around like reading awareness, phonics, those types of things. So really looking at that, so giving them a sample, having them look at materials, having them look at the professional development opportunities that they would receive with it, and then looking at how they could use that in their classroom instruction. So that's what the professional development days are really being used for as well. And then building upon that. So from Tom's point of looking at the PD moving forward, when I did the portion of the budget for next year, I incorporated a lot of the professional development funds for OGAP training for math to strengthen the math that completely coincides with what we have for Envision and then we have for 612 math. So looking at what does that look like for elementary with OGAP, and then what does ALEX training look like in 612 when we get into more of, you know, the higher level of math of like the pre-algebra, the algebra, and then moving forward into, you know, geometry, etc.
And are we still, tied into this, are we still targeting, and do we have any idea of when we could get to algebra and 8? Because we talked about, ultimately, we really want to be in algebra and 8.
It's complicated.
All
because-
students?
Well,
Well, it may or may not be able to be all students.
right. It's a conversation that's ongoing, but it's not at the forefront right now in the sense that we just purchased a whole new math program and we're kind of trying to see how that plays out. This is year 1, but that is a target in general. There's two conflicting theories on algebra 1 and E3. One is that if you push too hard to get too many students into it and they're not ready, it actually can make things worse. The other theory is that you look at it more like a bifurcated model where the students who are ready for algebra 1 and 8th grade go in, and then the ones that aren't don't. And we have a lot of philosophical conversations to have about that topic. Oyster River had pushed really hard to have, I was talking to Jim, I went and toured his middle school, the most amazing facility I've ever seen. And he talked to me about algebra 1, and he said that they do try to have all students take algebra 1 and 8th grade, but they don't succeed in getting them all. So I think it's just important to recognize that that is something that we need to continue to work on as now that we're coming back to closer to normal.
Well, and my perspective would be, you might very well have some cadre of people that just aren't going to be ready, particularly in the near term.
Mhm.
But if you have people that are,
We
we have to provide ways. We provide an awful lot of ways for people that are struggling.
Yep.
To get them up to the curve, to the center of the bell curve. We have to find ways to take people that are demonstrating abilities to go farther than they would otherwise be at that point in time, so that we are not a block on them achieving whatever it is that they can achieve.
we agree with that completely. That's perfectly well said. Like we have to keep, we're having a conversation with the high school about CP and honors. And I've made it clear that for next year, I expect that there's CP and honors, because we can't continue to have 8 levels of students in one English class.
I agree.
We need to have, 3 is one thing, right? And there should be variances, but for the students who are ready to go, they need to go. And for the students who need a hand, we need to give them a hand.
Yeah.
So I have to be careful because my IRB requires confidentiality for my doctorate, but I've completed 4 out of a number of interviews, and I have a lot of insight about ELA instruction in high school that I'll be sharing as I go through that process. And my dissertation should be done by next September, so I can share a lot of information once I get through, but I have
September is Slayer.
I'm not even gonna say anything about that. I'm supposed to have 3 interviews done by the end of this semester. I've got 8 scheduled. We'll leave it at that. So I just want to be clear that there is a lot to discuss.
Yeah.
But I also want to say, I'm really loving not being in the pandemic and having time to talk to teachers. Like they're telling me what the problem is. And the word is on the street that Christine and I are all about figuring it out with them, not telling them what to do. And I've had very positive feedback about the culture. So, and trust me, if it's not good, they're not gonna tell you, right? So them saying that they're very happy that we're listening. And they were very positive about the PD day that Christine planned. So Christine got a lot of positive feedback about we had time to plan, we had time to talk. Sometimes backing off and giving people a little room to breathe with structure is really healthy. It just can't be so loose that they don't get anything done. It's gotta be structured. But they appreciated the time on the 7th. And I think the way we've scheduled those PD days this year, we'll have less days at the end of the year, and knock on wood, we better have some snow days, because that's kind of how we planned that whole thing. But it really is good to have regular days while we're going through this process, especially after we get the EISA report.
Yeah, there will be.
Okay. think our next agenda is pretty much the same agenda,
Yes,
really.
yeah.
Public comments?
No, I don't have to be really thrilled that, this progress is being made, and totally agree with what Jamie had to say. You know, number one, and everybody really agrees, number one is we've got to educate these kids.
Yeah.
And we cannot fail children. So we really need to move forward on that. And that has to be a priority as far as budget goes, as far as everything else.
And I wanted to mention, just because I know that we were thinking about for the 24 credit diploma, the conversation about diploma with distinction. Kids meeting for every class every day is making a big difference. Right?
Not a surprise to us.
Right, I mean, right, but I'm just saying that we have changed so much so fast, it's almost going to be hard to track what made the biggest difference.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's a big difference, we
We'll take
we
it,
could
we'll take
debate
it, yeah.
1,000 ways of it, but we gotta get the achievement out.
Tammy, would it be okay for me to add one item? It's a quick one, and I don't know if I need EISA's approval or not, but it's, to purchase, books for pre-calc and calculus, but it's college board, so it's dictated by the college board because it's part of the AP exam for calculus. Do I need to pilot that, or is it something that we can purchase because it's for an AP class, and the AP class is set by the college board, therefore they're picking the textbook?
I think if personal opinion is if we're offering this in our
Yeah,
curriculum.
yeah. We're just trying to be
Then you
transparent.
have to support.
Okay.
We recognize
I believe
that we all value process,
Yeah.
right? And we don't
No,
want anyone
I'm glad you're bringing it
at a
up.
public meeting, you know?
So it's the Cengage Press, CENGAGE, and it's the pre-calc and calculus books. We do have funding in the budget for it now for the high school to purchase them, and it's completely aligned to the AP exam. It's the book that the college board recommends, and I have Tim, et cetera, seal of approval
So
for
Doc
it.
Young wants that book.
Yes,
All right.
I got him a sample copy,
Mhm.
and it's the book that he really wants because of the way that the college board AP exam, for calculus is. So I trust what he would say and recommend.
Goes to what I was just saying before, we have to find ways that if kids have an ability to excel in a particular area, we can't be the block. We need to help them get there. If it's in our course curriculum, we need to support it.
All right, great.
Doc Young's, my son had him, and he was excellent.
Yeah.
He was excellent, so
I like
I
his one for
trust-
socks. It was like the best song.
Yeah.
I like that he's a hardcore mountain biker. It's really fun. He gives me pointers.
He's got all the Dune books. It's
Yep.
the entire Dune universe.
He loves it. Fun guy.
Anything else? Okay. All right, we're adjourned.